Hi everyone, Wismeril here, coming back with another video where we're going to go through patch 1.1.0, preparing the ground for Season 1 in Diablo 4. This video is mainly going to be about the Sorcerer class, because that's the class I play. I'm a main Sorcerer, that's the class I know most, and that's the class that you guys are mostly interested in. Alright, let's get started. Blizzard introduced in this patch a few unique items. One of them has the same rarity than the 6 others, uber uniques, so very hard to get. Like statistically speaking, you might get one every 10 years if it just goes by the statistics. So you're not very likely to get it. It's a very strong one, but let's not waste too much time because the chances of you or me getting it are extremely low. Now they introduced other items, other unique items for the other class. Now let's look at the one for the Sorcerer. The Oculus. That's a very inspiring name because this was an item in the previous Diablo series, an item that was really great. It's a one-handed weapon. Great, good job, Blizzard. You're not giving us two-handed stuff anymore that are so clunky to include in our builds. So this is great. Now what's the effect of this unique item? Gain the effect of the teleport enchantment for free. Awesome! This enchantment has so much synergy with the unique chest armor that groups enemy and stuns them. Wow, that's great, that's cool. Wait, let's read further. When you evade using teleport enchantment, you are taken to a random location. Really? So, like, that's what you're giving us? Are you trolling? Is that a meme? It's not. So, realistically speaking, this unique item is useless. The stats, the affixes it rolls with are pretty good because it gives plus ranks to teleport skill, which reduce the cooldown. So, I mean, come on, it looks great. Just remove the last line, the last words, the last sentence. Just remove the random location teleportation. It's so lame. Like, we can't use that. I mean, really, imagine you're speed farming a dungeon or pushing a dungeon. You're facing an elite. The elite spawns 4 zones of a one-shot ability that you need to dodge, right? You're standing on one of them. So, okay, you will evade or teleport away, right? Well, that's not your lucky day. You just teleported onto another of the 4 one-shot mechanics. Boom, you're dead. Oh, you were playing hardcore. Okay, no, so realistically speaking, this item is a meme. They are just trolling us. I have hopes, not much, but I have hopes that they will remove the last part and then this item will be so great. Anyway, let's not waste too much time on this very poorly designed item. I don't see any reason to play that, seriously. On top of that, Blizzard is giving us 7 new legendary aspects, 2 of them generic to all the classes, and 1 of them only for the Sorcerer. Let's look at the generic ones. Audacity. This one is pretty good. When there are at least 5 close enemies, stuns them for 4 seconds. This can only occur once every 20 seconds. So it's pretty good. A 4 seconds long stun is really valuable for the Sorcerer class because we rely on crowd control to deal our damage. So this part is really good. And it triggers every 20 seconds, not every 2 minutes. So this is great. This legendary item is really good. On top of that, it's a utility aspect, not an offensive one. Meaning you can forge it, you can equip it on your boots slot, which is great. Like this Audacity, I can see cases where I can see builds where I will want to use that. Really good one. Okay. Craven. It's a mobility aspect. Means you can only imprint it on your boots or amulet. On the amulet, usually there are more interesting things, to say the least, that you want to imprint, like an offensive aspect that will get buffed. On the boots, you have that's your utility slot, so you don't really want to have a mobility aspect. I made a speed farming build that's using a mobility aspect on both the amulets and the boots, and that's for speed farming dungeons. Would I want to include the Craven legendary in that build? Hell no. What it does is, if you're kiting away from monsters, like you do some hit and run, you get 40% increased movement speed when you're moving away from slowed or chilled enemies. 40% is a huge number, so it's nice, but like I wouldn't want, there are others best in slot that you want to use instead of this one. So Craven is meh. Audacity is great. I can see cases where I want this one. Now the new legendary for the sorcerer class is Searing Wards. It's an offensive aspect. After spending 100 mana, your next firewall is free to cast and will destroy incoming small missiles. This one is hard to evaluate, because like the first part doesn't really solve the mana puzzle that you have to solve when you assemble any sorcerer build, right? So the 100 mana, like the free cast every 100 mana, doesn't solve the mana problem you would have when you run a firewall build. So, okay, that part's not the strongest. The second part is interesting, and that's what makes it hard to evaluate. This free firewall, if you deploy it in front of you, it will destroy any incoming small missiles, which is great, because we're going to see in the rest of the patch notes that survivability on the sorcerer is going to be rough, to say the least. So I can see a world where we're going to want this item only for defensive purpose. The problem is it's an offensive aspect, so you're going to use that instead of a 20% multiplier, so the trade-off is not great. This needs testing. I will do the testing and I will report back on the channel on if this legendary is great or just trash. So stay tuned. Alright, let's move on. Bug fixes. Right, bug fixes. No, it's not all bug fixes. There are a few nerfs that are hiding there. So, alright, I won't read everything. So most of them are actually bug fixes. But if we look carefully, where are you hiding? Let me find it. So most of it is like true bug fix for things that were not designed to be this way. Like for the sorcerer class, some interactions of items were not working properly and they are fixing it. That's great. Good job. But that's not all. Where are you? You can read all of that if you want to, but that's not like where the juice is. It's hiding somewhere else. Wait, let me find it. The aspect of control, and that's mostly to address the Uber Lilith issue. They are nerfing. Where did he put it? Just give me a second. Sorry about that. Might edit this out. Yes, there you are. Okay. So this is not a bug fix. This is Blizzard trying to nerf the Blizzard build that is one-shotting Uber Lilith, which is great. Like, this build has no really mean to exist. Like, the real way to beat Uber Lilith is to have skill and to dodge attacks around and to deal damage over time and to defeat her. Great. Now, because the Blizzard build is a problem for them, they deployed this fix, where now on a staggered boss, you will not be applying the aspect of control triple damage bonus anymore. So I have problem with the design of this fix, as they call it, because yes, you want to nerf the one-shot fights with Uber Lilith, but no, you don't want to impact the rest of the builds that the sorcerer has. It's already struggling to have build diversity and like having enough endgame build to do its stuff, right? So this is bad. This is bad design for me. Like I tried it earlier today and later, like earlier last night. The speed runs I used to do on a 50 to 59 nightmare dungeon where mobs are like level 103 to 110 or 115, something like that. So that was the speed runs that I used to do to level up my glyphs, right? It would take just a few minutes to complete that run. I would annihilate the whole dungeon basically, and the only timing that I had to work with was the boss fight, because like the limiting factor was not the dungeon itself, but the boss. I had way too much damage for the dungeon and way too little for boss fights, right? So I had to find the correct pace for speed farming. So it ended in the 50 to 59, in my case, running a hybrid Blizzard / Ice Shards build, right? Which is, in my opinion, the best speed farming build for the Sorcerer class at the moment, like pre-patch. Now, I used to kill the boss in one staggered phase, and now it takes 2 to kill the boss, and that's only on the lower end of the 50s. I didn't try a 59, 58, 57. I might need 3 stagger rotations. It bothers me because the dungeon itself, you just one-shot everything. Like you apply all 4 crowd control, 3 hard crowd control, 1 soft crowd control, the chill, to enemies plus the burn, and you deal massive amount of damage to the enemies. You basically one-shot everything in the dungeon. But the boss fight is another story. And now it's very hard to scale, like to estimate which level of dungeon you want to run, because the boss is a problem. It takes too long to kill the boss for a speed farming build, but it takes, like, it's way too fast to clear the dungeon. So this change here, I think the philosophy behind this change is not right. This is not how you should address the Uber Lilith fight. I think Blizzard should have made a nerf where Uber Lilith becomes immune to crowd control at some point, or to damage following crowd control. There were like thousands of ways to address the problem. And this one, having side effects, is not the way forward, honestly. So I'm pretty sad that they implemented that. It's gonna have impacts in Season 1, carrying forwards to Season 1, and that's the problem. Anyway, so the rest of those text blocks are real fix that they deployed, that they had to, because some things were broken, and they fixed it. Okay, loading screen update, that's a cosmetic change. A nice one, by the way, I like it. Alright, now let's address the rest of the patch. Okay, world tier difficulty. Veteran difficulty has been changed in the following way. They added 5% to the bonus gold, and now monsters drop 15% more items, which I take as monsters you kill have a 15% chance to drop 1 more item, I guess. It doesn't say the quality of the drops are 15% better, so I take it this way. Is it going to make us want to run veteran difficulty for leveling? No, this is not enough. You'd have to bump the numbers higher. Like, this change is a welcome change, but it's not strong enough for us to want to run veteran difficulty for leveling. World Tier 1 is much better. It's faster. It makes us level faster because we do things faster, hence more often. So this change here, okay, they like where veteran difficulty has landed. I disagree. I think they would need to bump those numbers up, honestly. It's only in group play, with organized group play, that you might want to run veteran difficulty for leveling. But you have to be like really good at what you're doing and very organized and synchronized with the rest of your group. Because I see most of the groups for leveling are going to run it in World Tier 1. So this is not enough. I'm happy you like where it landed, but I disagree with your statement. Sorry. All right, let's keep moving. Yeah, okay, about that. So casual players are going to feel more powerful in the open world. That's fair. Okay, because for late game, for end game content, we're not spending a lot of time in the open world anyway. So, okay, why not? As long as it doesn't affect the end game activities, which it doesn't, that's fine by me. Okay, you want to give the casual players a sense of power, great. If those casual players would use build guides from content creators that are trying to help them in assembling the correct builds, you know, to run Nightmare Dungeons, then when you run Nightmare Dungeons that have plus 20 levels in difficulty and you switch back to the open world, you will one-shot everything. So this change, I see it only intended for the casual players that want to run fun builds of meta builds that are not able to clear high Nightmare Dungeon for speed farming or Hell Tides. And yeah, okay, those people are going to feel powerful running World Tier 3 and World Tier 4 in the outside world. Okay, why not? The reward experience for completing Whispers in Torment and Nightmare has been significantly increased. That's nice, because in World Tier 3, during leveling, we'll be running a few of those. We're not going to spend much time on that type of activity, but at the beginning of World Tier 3 of Nightmare difficulty, we're going to run a few of those. So the extra experience is great. Yeah, right, that part. So this is where they're trying to kill the power leveling. Probably the pay for power leveling thing. So they did a pretty good job at lowering the potency of power leveling. Is it going to completely stop power leveling from being sold or bought from players? I don't think so. So before, I think it used to take, what, 40 minutes for a level 1 to level 50 power leveling. And now it's going to take a lot more than that. But guess what? The people that were ready to pay for it, I think, are just going to pay more for a longer duration of power leveling. I think in the end, that's what's going to change. So yes, it's not as easy anymore to power level, but the people that really want to do it will do it anyway. My problem with it is that implementing the fix this way, there's a side effect on us solo self-found players, because we used to have strategy relying on having the monsters 3 levels ahead, higher of us, so that we can benefit from the plus 25% experience. And now this has been nerfed to the ground, like it's 1.5% per level. It will cap at 10 levels. So in the previous leveling strategies where we designed the architecture of the leveling to make the most out of combats with mobs 3 levels higher, we are getting 4.5%, so that's not really working anymore. It's not the end of the world, because we have different strategies. Like my leveling strategy as a group with other players will do something else. That's okay. We can cope with that. It's just that it's always sad to see Blizzard implementing a nerf to do something where, okay, yeah, they might have to do something about that. In my opinion, you spend the money the way you want. Like, you want to buy a power leveling, yeah, buy it, use it. It's possible, so you can do it. I won't judge you. I won't judge anyone for doing that. Okay, so I'm not judging. in their opinion, they want to kill it. Are they going to achieve that? I don't think so. Does it have side effects? Yes. So the way it's implemented, I think it's not the right way. You're gonna be hearing me complain a lot in this patch 1.1.0, but honestly, like the way things are implemented, that's pretty sad. It could have been done differently. It wouldn't have side effects like that affects players who just play the game normally and don't want to see those kind of changes. And it's they're trying to open up the game to more build diversity, and the way they implemented the changes is not allowing that. It's actually taking us steps backwards from reaching that. Anyway, let's continue. Helltide. Oh yeah. Now that, okay, so before Helltide's monsters were 2 levels ahead of us instead of 3, and we would gain the benefits, max XP, from having them 3 levels higher. So now that you completely nerfed this strategy, you're giving us the 3 levels higher in Helltide. Thank you. Alright. Farming Mysteries chest will be more difficult for 2 reasons. The price for opening those chests went from 175 to 250, and I read last night or this morning from Pays Radar, community manager at Blizzard, that they are fixing some unexpected behavior where more cinders would drop, so like you are going to drop less. So good luck if you want to open 4 chests of mystery during Helltide in 1 hour 15 minutes. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult. I didn't try that part of the patch notes yet, but I'm going to try it out and I'll let you know if you can still achieve it or if you're running against the clock and you can't. Stay tuned. I tried that though, and so it used to be that every interactable object that has a red halo around it contains aberrant cinders, right? And you would destroy them to get them. And those objects that don't have the red halo around it wouldn't contain any. Now I tried clearing everything in sight, like clearing it, clicking it to open it to destroy it, and I never got any cinders. So this small chance from my initial testing is very small. Balance updates, right, balance. Okay, so sorcerer skills and balanced. Charged Bolt is a very interesting skill, and I'm trying to make endgame builds that I can share with you guys where we can use that. It's a skill I really like. There are a few problems, right? My initial problem is that a very interesting power is on a 2-handed staff, which is so clunky to include in a sorcerer build. So that's one of the problems I'm trying to fix. That's why I'm not sharing any of those builds yet. And the second problem that they try to address in these patch notes later on is if you want a build, a certain build to perform in the end game, you need to have permanent uptime on vulnerable for enemies and a lot of critical strike damage for it to scale to the late game, right? And if you can't do that, your build is a fun build because it deals no damage. So I'm not sharing those fun builds with you guys because I don't want you to spend resource on assembling those and just playing it. Okay, it's fun, it's pretty, it does a lot of nice things on screen. It feels very good to play and all, but it doesn't deal the damage. It takes like, I don't know, 20 minutes to clear a dungeon. I'm not going to share those builds with you guys. I'm only sharing what works in the end game, whether it's speed farming, pushing, different types of speed farming, etc. And for now, I don't have that one ready. I still have hope that in season 1 I can make something work. Like I theory crafted a lot of builds and I'll be testing them all in season 1. I'll share the ones that are great. Will this buff to Charged Bolt make it a viable endgame build? Hell no. 6% more damage, it's not going to change anything. The damage reduction is nice, 20 to 25%. That's nice to have, but it's not going to make that endgame viable. Same for Incinerate. Like, I'm trying so hard. Like, I really like the Firebolt and Fireball and Incinerate builds. Fireball is such an iconic skill from the sorcerer, but it doesn't work in the end game. Same for Incinerate. So having 5% more damage reduction is nice, but still that's not the way forward if you want to have build diversity on the sorcerer. Other things needs to be addressed, which I'm going to touch base on later in the video. This one's interesting. I don't know if you encountered that, but Ice Blades has a different animation lock than other skills. Animation lock is when you cast a skill, so you see your character doing something, like invoking something. The skill is cast, and then there is the animation lock where at the end, your character is finishing the move before you're able to take another action. And this animation lock was very long for the Ice Blades. I think more than half a second, like nearly a second, where you cast it and then you're locked, you can't do anything, you can't fire. You can't fire any damage skills. The way I found before this patch to make it work is that you could break, the only way to break the animation lock from Ice Blades was to cast a defensive skill. Ice Armor, Teleport, or Flame Shield, or anything else. Like when you cast Ice Blade, after that you can't fire Ice Shards or any damaging skill, but if you cast, let's say, Ice Armor, it breaks the animation lock and allows you to cast instantly any damaging skill you have. So that's how I used to play it before. Now they said the cast cleanup, which is the lock of the animation, has been tightened. It hasn't been removed. So I didn't test that part of the patch yet. I'm going to test that today. Tightened doesn't mean removed. So maybe it was like, I don't know, 0.7 seconds before, now it's 0.6, which doesn't solve the issue. The issue, hopefully, it's like a 0.1 second and it works smoothly. If it doesn't, use the my strategy, like cast a defensive skill to exit the animation lock, to break the animation lock so that you can cast another spell right after that. Firebolt damage from 10 to 18, okay, that's nice to have, won't change anything. Now this one's interesting. Wizard's Firewall maximum increased mana regeneration increased from 25% to 35%. In Season 1, there are a lot, like there's one particular heart, very inspiring for certain builds, where it will double, triple, quadruple your core skills projectiles, but it will empty your mana bar. And I think this one looks pretty fun. So having those kinds of buffs before season starts, or just as season starts, is great, because I think this one might see a lot of play. It's really fun, it seems strong, but to make a build with it, we need to solve the first piece of the puzzle, resource management, which is always the first puzzle you have to solve with the sorcerer class when you're assembling a new build. So those types of buff, you know, keep an eye on them, because this could be allowing you to assemble new builds that will be really fun and really strong. So more on that next week probably. Wizard's Blizzard is nice to have, but I would have liked to see this number raised more. 10 to 20 is nice. Would have been better 30 to 40, but anyway. We'll take that because there's a lot of nerfs coming, so you know, and we'll take any buffs that you're going to give us, we'll take them, because what's coming is pretty sad. This one's huge. Supreme Deep Freeze. It used to be that the cooldown reduction on the rest of your skills was only 50%. So I never put points on that ultimate skill, because the skill itself lasts 4 seconds, right? You're changing to ice during 4 seconds, and during those 4 seconds, your other cooldowns will, get lower by 4 seconds. So whatever is left of those cooldown in the end being reduced by half didn't make a lot of sense, right? Like, let's say you cast Deep Freeze and you had 4.5 seconds remaining on, or let's say 5 seconds remaining on teleport. During those 4 seconds, this turns to 1 second, and in the end, if you put 1 point in Supreme Deep Freeze, the 1 second remaining of teleport becomes half a second, which is not great. You don't want to spend 1 point for that kind of effect. So having it fully reset is great. It's really going to have a smooth gameplay when using Deep Freeze, especially in speedrun situations. This one's great. On to the passives. This one, Elemental Dominance, that's only a 9% multiplicative damage for the cost of 4 skill points. So I think I never, or rarely / never, put 4 points in that one, because 9%, like those 4 points, can be used differently somewhere else in the skill tree. So I've always prioritized those 4 points not being there. So this affecting mastery skills instead of just core skills, okay, that's nice to have, but I don't think it's going to change things very much. Okay, on to a meme. So the inherent way for the sorcerer class to build up defenses is to have all resistance and resistance to all elements. At the moment, it's poorly designed. Like no one's using that. I'm not going to explain why. It would take 5 to 10 minutes or 5 minutes. But that's not the way. It's not really mitigating any incoming damage enough that you want to invest points or invest rolls on gear for that. It's not done the right way. Blizzard said they are going to rework the resistance to elements in Season 2. And in Season 1, they are giving us a nice buff to the all resistance, because like from 3 seconds to 9 seconds is a very appreciated buff. Like it's a huge jump in numbers. But it's a meme, because I would have preferred them to implement in Season 1 the rework of resistance to all elements and then give us that in Season 2, then the other way around. This makes no sense. We are not going to use that in Season 1 at all. So, okay, you're laying the ground for Season 2, but, you could have used that energy / resource somewhere else that would benefit us sorcerers more. Oh, this one's big. I really like this one, protection. So there are many buffs in the game that last 3 seconds, like the unique chest armor, where you pixel pull enemies and stun them for 3 seconds. With the immobilize and burn of meteor, it's 2 seconds of crowd control, but if you have just enough, like 60% crowd control duration extension, it changes to 3 seconds. So that's 3 seconds of burn and 3 seconds of immobilize. So having this barrier duration change from 2 to 3 seconds is in line with a lot of other synergies that the sorcerer class has. So I really like that part of the change. And also having it last longer is better for survivability, which the sorcerer class struggles with when endgames come, speaking. So nice change, good one on that. Align the elements, that's a good one too. Like it used to be the strongest passive node of the sorcerer skill tree in the entire game before the game came out. I think it was pre-release, and they nerfed it to the ground, where you nowadays only want to put 1 point in that to reach either protection or mana shield or both. And now they are making it to something good. Like it's not OP as it was before, and it's not super weak as it was before too. Like I think it's reaching a nice common ground, because Now it takes 4 point something seconds to fully charge it between two elite attacks, which is great, because I think like 4 seconds, you know, you could get hit, then dodge things for a few seconds and have it up to an interesting value that will mitigate more damage the next time the elite will hit you. So I think I like those values. This seems very balanced to me. I like that. I like that too. Mana shield, like 15 to 21. The jump in number doesn't seem that high, but the 20 plus territory matters. And you have to keep in mind that this is skill points in the skill tree. You don't rely on having that damage reduction on the roll on your equipment. This is easily available by just spending 3 points in the skill tree, which I really like. That's predictable damage reduction as long as you're not using avalanche, for instance, which give you free casts. But for, let's say, the fire and lightning specs of the sorcerer, I like that change. Like there will be cases where in my builds I'm going to put those 3 points, and especially in the early game where I don't have these damage reduction rolls on my pants and chest armor, and more on that later because there's enough coming, I might want to spend those 3 points. I really like that change. Okay, on to Devouring Blaze. So, Blizzard was aware that we have a problem with build diversity with many other classes, but mostly with the sorcerer class. That's my point, the point I want to address now. To have a build that will perform in the endgame, you need vulnerable damage and critical strike damage. If your build doesn't have one or two or both, it's a fun build. It's a build that deals no damage, that will, I don't know, it will take 20 to 30 minutes to clear a dungeon, and that's not something you can take to the late game. So there was this problem. They were aware of that. They could have addressed that problem and the other problem they have where they want to lower the ceiling of a endgame build's damage, right? So they could have done both at the same time. The way they did, they nerfed the crap out of Devouring Blaze, but unfortunately it's still needed for us to invest 4 points, like 3 points in this and 1 point in the connecting node. For our endgame builds, we still need critical strike damage, so we still need the 4 points there. We are still forced into burning synergies just for that particular node. So they didn't solve build diversity, and they addressed the ceiling lowering of damage endgame in a way that, I don't know, the player reception is not great on that one. Like, it could have been done differently. I mean, you could have done Devouring Blaze only apply to pyromancy skills and lower the value, and maybe give us something else for cold and lightning specs. And you could have achieved that in a way where you would have enhanced build diversity for the sorcerer and maybe for the other classes too. But the way it was done, that's not great. Player reception is not great on that. We are very unhappy it was done this way, and it doesn't enhance build diversity. It's a lose-lose situation for us. So, pretty sad about the implementation that was done here on Devouring Blaze. Like, if only they would have done things differently. I'm very sad to see that, okay? I understand we need to lower the endgame content damage, and I respect that. But, you know, it's a trade. You take something and you can give something, you know, else. And in this case, we're just losing on both fronts. Build diversity and damage. And that sucks. I would have loved to see this node, you know, like to remove the burn we need to have a source of burn in every single build because we need this. I would have loved to see that removed, to see that mechanic removed. It didn't happen, and this was nerfed to the ground. So let's see what Blizzard have to say. They will have a developer campfire conversation. Well, like they talk, we listen. That's the conversation. On Friday. Let's see what they have to say about that. I don't see them reverting changes because it takes a lot of work, lots of effort to put those things live, you know, so I don't see them. They are going to launch season 1. We have to live with that. There's no turning back, unfortunately. Okay, let's move to something, more positive. Fiery Surge. This one I really like the numbers. Moving from 30 to 45% is great. And I see use cases for that node in season 1, where some of the powers they are introducing, the one that's going to double, triple, quadruple projectiles, will launch at the cost of emptying our mana bar, just like the way we used to play Meteor in Diablo 3. I love that. I really love that. But to solve the puzzle of like doing that build, we have to work hard on how we're going to regenerate mana. And Fiery Surge, along with the Firewall mana regeneration change, is very welcome. I think it's going to give us tool to implement nice builds using that new power they're introducing. So this one's great. This one's great too. It goes in the discussion where, you want your build to function late game, you need critical strike damage. And having this glyph apply to every damaging skill goes this way, right? So it was already pretty mandatory to have this one. Now you're going to see this in every build, every late game build, right? So this change is great. It opens up more diversity, more build diversity on the sorcerer, which I really like, because I have theory crafted so many builds, and it's a shame I can only play a few of those because only a few of those are endgame viable. So seeing those changes makes me happy, because to fight the burnout that you can have playing ARPG games like Diablo 4, you need the build diversity. You need to be able to respect at key moments in the game, else you're going to burn out and you're going to move to another game. Even though you really like the franchise, you really like the Diablo 4, the Diablo era, Diablo 1, 2, 3, and now 4, it's a shame. So to fight burnout, we need build diversity. It is very important. So anything that goes this way is appreciated. On to the enchantments. It's a miss from Blizzard because I would have loved to see them do things differently here. Moving from 10 to 40% to 14% is a joke. And Frozen Orb, which is really good, like I really like this enchantment. 20% was too low to use it. And come on, 30%. Why not 50 to 75? Something in that range. Or just keep it 50. I think 50 is the middle ground we need, because Frozen Orb enchantment has some very nice interactions. If a Frozen Orb detonates on a frozen enemy, it can make that frozen enemy vulnerable, which opens a utility branch with that enchantment, which opens a lot more, so many other builds where, okay, you have a nice way, like it only costs you one enchantment and a few skill points to cover the vulnerable aspect of your build. And now you can play a build that was not viable before. So that's great. So why only 30%? Like I used to play, I tested many builds that are not viable at the moment, where I try to fit in the Frozen Orb enchantment plus the, where is this one? The Biting Cold. With Biting Cold, when you freeze an enemy, there is a 35% chance they become vulnerable, and with Frozen Orb enchantment, if it goes on a frozen enemy, it's vulnerable. So it would open so many builds that were not functioning before. The problem is it's unreliable, and you can't, it goes in situations where you're in a dungeon. On paper, your build is great, it should work fine, but then you're using it in the dungeon. Any non-vulnerable enemy you want to kill, you have to hit them, I don't know, 20, 25 times. And the moment they are vulnerable, it's 3 to 5 hits. And that's the problem. That's the problem we have at the moment for build diversity with the sorcerer class. I could share so many more builds if, I don't know, they make that number 50%, or they make, we'll come to this one later, but they make this one 100%. Like, I mean, to include that legendary in your build, it's costing you 1 offensive slot, which has a cost, right? You could put a 25% damage multiplier instead. You're not putting that, so you're losing on damage to include that, which is a utility choice to me, right? So why 35% to 40%? Why not 100%? I think it would make sense on that particular one to make it 100%. The cost of having that is you have to include it in an offensive slot, and you have to include it in a build where you have to freeze enemies. Okay, so there's a cost of doing that. And the cost of doing that would allow you to play so many builds, like many other builds than the 2.5 or 3 ones that we have at the moment. And, you know, it's a miss on Blizzard's part. You know, let's be positive. Maybe in 2 to 3 patches from now, this will be addressed and we'll be able to play so many more builds. But for now, it's a shame that, you know, it's sad to see that it was just a tweak of numbers and they missed it. The other way they could have done it is with the Enchantment Master Paragon board, the legendary node on this Paragon board. It's only boosting enchantments numbers like those one, this 30% and this 14%. It's boosting those numbers by 20%, which is too little. Like they could have addressed this enchantment section by, okay, we're only changing the Enchantment Master Paragon legendary node, and we're changing this 20% from that node to 50, 60%, 70%, I don't know. And then we're not touching those, or we are doing that in conjunction with modifying those. You know, it's just numbers to tweak, and they can do it because they're doing it here. Why is it so little? That sucks. Makes me sad. In one patch, they could have addressed so many issues, and they didn't. Let's hope next patch, next 2 patches, that they are going to address that, hopefully. On to a meme. Yes, okay. Incinerate enchantment. So if you know what it does, it used to be so funny before the game release. Every 18 seconds, it would spawn a serpent that was off screen, that was not in your screen. And for a few seconds, how many? Like 8 seconds, it would just like try to shoot enemies with fire. And it's such a meme. So they're reducing the cooldown of that effect from 18 to 14 seconds. Honestly, why not, instead of 1 serpent, getting 5 or 7 or 10 or 3 or 4 or 8, like, you know, like, so that it does something every X seconds. If it's too strong, yeah, make it 18. If it's not very strong, make it 14. Okay, but like when it spawns, we have like 5 or 10 serpents spawning and shooting enemies. Why did you go this route? Okay, so this one will stay a meme. The Incinerate enchantment. Anyway, Hydra. So Hydra, this one's interesting, along with the Splintering Energy. Because I believe the Conjuration branch of the Sorcerer has a very strong utility potential. The Conjurer spells, Hydra, what's the name of the others? Lightning Spear and Ice Blades can be used not for offense, like not for damage, but rather for utility. they used to have, I think it got nerfed in the data mining that I saw, they used to have very high lucky hit chance, 70% base, 75% base. So with just some rolls on your gear, you would make it 100%. And then with the Frost Nova enchantment, that would trigger Frost Nova on lucky hits from your conjuration spells. You would trigger Frost Nova that would make enemies vulnerable. So that's another way to address the build diversity issue. The problem is the Frost Nova enchantment proc chance is too low. 30% is too low. It's not addressed here. Maybe if it was, they would have moved it from 30 to 35% and it would still be an issue. But there's something to be done here with the conjuration as a utility branch of the sorcerer. So this change here, and where's the other one? I think there's another one for Hydra. There, where the duration reduction from having a second Hydra is changed from 20 to 10, and that's not the way forward. I would have loved to see a buff in the Frost Nova enchantment allowing the conjuration to play a big utility role, and we would have so much build diversity. You know, we could make enemies vulnerable with Frozen Orb, with Biting Cold, with Conjuration, and then all of a sudden, maybe you have 10 more, okay, maybe you have 5 more endgame builds that you can use, which are going to help you fight the burnout you could get playing this game. So another miss. Let's hope that in a few patches this will be addressed. Spoiler alert, we used to have 70 and 75% of lucky hit chance on Hydra and Ice Blades in the data mine that I saw last night or this morning, can't remember, didn't sleep much. This was nerfed, the lucky hit chance of Conjuration was nerfed to the ground. I think it's like 5% now. So it was not viable before, and now it's like goodbye. Goodbye Conjuration utility strategy. You know, last nail in the coffin. Anyway, so that's sad. Enchantments could have been addressed differently, and it's a miss. So once again, let's hope it will be addressed in the next patch. Let's move on to legendary aspects. We've already covered a few of them. Just a quick word to finish on the splintering energy. This is numbers. They are capable of doing it. Look at that. 20% to 50%. Yes, that's the jump in numbers that are relevant, that makes sense, that allows us, theory crafter and new players, you know, to make something out of the tools that we have, because at the moment we can't. So you're capable of doing it. 20 to 50 is a big gap. You've done it here. Why not there? Why not Frozen Orb? Why not, I'm going to repeat myself, I'm sorry, but Biting Cold, you know, you've done it here. So on splintering energy, I've been theory crafting a few builds that I will test during season 1, and if any of those are viable, I'll share them on the channel. This one is nice. I like to see that. You know, now we can really plan on you know, proccing that with a decent uptime and making some use of the tools we have to play with. You know. Those two, Armageddon and Shattered Stars, and those 3 with the ice spikes. So those are here to counterbalance. They made a change where before, when you rolled a flat damage number on a legendary item, you had to upgrade it 4 to 5 times to up the flat number, the flat damage number, before extracting it and imprinting it on your rare or legendary item that you want to use. Excuse me. That's how it used to work. And sometimes you had to upgrade it 4 times, sometimes you had to upgrade it 5 times. It was not consistent, okay? They removed the part where you have to upgrade it. Now you can't do that anymore. If you upgrade a flat number, a legendary flat damage number, it won't go up in numbers, right? So that's great because we don't have to spend resource on this before imprinting it, which is great. But we're losing some power. How do they address losing the power? They just buffed the flat numbers. I didn't make the calculations yet, so I can't tell you right now if the damage is the same between what we lose from not upgrading those and what we gain from the flat number increase. I'll share that in the future, but ballpark estimation should be more or less the same, right? Okay. So those two here and those three there, that's why they are here. So we covered that, and did we cover that? Yes, we did. Oh, well, this one is to address also the Uber Lilith nerf that we discussed previously. You know, in case they were not sure they will nail it with the aspect of control, huge nerf. Here's another 10%, you know, just to be safe. So that one is interesting. For some time last night, I used to think, well, it's a meme. We don't really need that. Deep freeze lasts 4 seconds. 4 seconds times 20% equals 80%. So the way it is, you would restore 80% of your maximum life. Okay, it's not full life, but that's good enough. And you would restore 80% of your mana, but guess what? During those 4 seconds, your natural mana regeneration does the rest. So Deep Freeze with that defensive legendary would make an empty mana bar a full mana bar. So I was like, why would they change it to 30%? And then you overcap at some point. And then I was thinking, I think it's for the Season 1 new powers that they are going to introduce. Remember, I told you that mana restoration will play a big part, I think, in the meta that's going to shape up. So I think that's why they are putting that one here. And on top of that, the life regeneration that we don't have much on the sorcerer class can also be here, laying ground for Season 1, because there's new power, a new heart, that makes you spend health instead of mana to cast spells under certain conditions. So we don't have access to many life regeneration effects. We do have a few, but not many. So maybe this one, overcapping life regeneration, can be put here because it could be great in conjunction with the new heart power that will let us spend life instead of mana to cast spells. I can't wait to test that out. You know, I'm a theory crafter. That's what I really like to do. And I can't wait to have new tools to play with, because I hope most of the builds I'm going to come up with are going to be endgame viable, and I can like play them and share them with you guys. Okay, so this one, let's keep an eye on that one. It might play a role in the near future. Stable aspect, that's not much, 2%. I still would love to make a consistent build with that. Currently, the value is low, and I'm not sure 2% is going to change that. We'll see in the future. Yeah, another 5% change. Thank you, Blizzard. You know, what did we say again about jumping numbers? Anyway, let's move to something cringe. No, sorry. To our great unique items, class items for the sorcerer class. The Esadora's overflowing cameo, such a great one. It has, you know, so when you equip that, you're losing so many important stats. Just the affixes on a regular amulet. This is a big loss. For what? A 10% chance to do a lightning nova that deals some damage at some point. It got changed from 10 to 15%. Woohoo! Yeah, so another meme. And those gloves, I tried so hard, man, to make Fireball work. Such an iconic spell from the previous Diablo games. And it even have a chance to stun. You know, it's not high, but it's usable. It's like dreamable of usable. But I didn't. Like, too clunky to use. So what does that one do again? Oh yeah, because like it's so hard to use that you have to nerf the damage, right? So the nerf is not that bad anymore. Well, it's a 10% less, damage. So I'm still gonna try because I love Fireball. Diablo 1, Diablo 2. Come on, but so hard to make it work. So I'm still gonna try, but you're not really helping me here, Blizzard. And those are the boots that can be used. Critical strike, chance being dependent on your movement speed bonus has great use. Like for speed runs, this is great. So I use that. But my problem is the affixes on those boots. You're losing a lot. Like you're losing very important stats. Mana cost reduction, plus ranks to teleport, Frost Nova, Flame Shield. That's big. For what? For critical strike chance? Yeah, in some builds it's mandatory. Like, I mean, you have to have high critical strike chance and you want to use those, but, it's a shame that the uniques for the sorcerer class are so weak. And you can't even extract that power to put it on well-rolled boots. That's probably the worst. What did they change? Critical strike change from 25%. Yeah, a 5% bump. Okay, cool. Thank you. So that's it for the sorcerer balance updates. Let's move on to the general balance updates. Spoiler alert, you're gonna cry. The sorcerer class has a problem when it comes to damage mitigation. Because, as I said previously, in the design of the class, it was designed to rely on resistance to element and all resistances. It doesn't work currently, and they're going to rework that. So what we did, we sorcerers, we used what other class used to mitigate damage. So since this is not our main way to mitigate damage, we did it with less efficiency than other classes, but at least we were still able to use that. Comes the nerf to armor, and this one is big on sorcerer. Like, I mean, it's already somehow squishy class, especially in the end game, and now it's like welcome to the one-shot world. You have to one-shot things before they one-shot you. That's how it's going to play out, okay? Because with Season 1, you're going to lose the sockets on your jewelry, amulets and rings. We used to put skulls there for armor. We are getting something better, which are powers, which is great, but we're losing armor in the trade. So we're already losing what we were not very good at using for damage mitigation. Well, guess what? It gets even worse. The best defensive legendary in the game, the aspect of disobedience, is being nerfed from 50% armor to 30%. I didn't share the formula. I need to, that's on my list. Of how you can calculate damage reduction percentage based on the armor value that you have against the level of enemies you're fighting. There's a formula for that. Shout out to another content creator that had put that one up. It's great. I have to share that with you guys. And when you use that and you compare how armor mitigate damage on other classes and on the sorcerer, it's better on other classes, but it still used it did something for us sorcerers. Now it's even worse. So the way I see Season 1 endgame, we are going to rely a lot on, it's already the case, but it's going to be even more on Season 1, what's it called? Flame Shield. We're going to rely on Flame Shield even more. The way I'm playing right now, pre-Season 1, is Flame Shields gives you invulnerability for 2 seconds as a base duration. If you put 5 skill points, it goes up to 2.5 or 2.6, I'm not entirely sure. Then if you have a Flame Shield roll on your boots, +4, and +3 ranks on your amulets to defensive skills, you end up with 3.1 seconds of invulnerability when you have Flame Shield up. Add to that the elemental attunement where you can reset one of your defensive skills. And if you play things correctly, you can make only one skill on cooldown, hence reset, Flame Shield. So long story short, you get to 6.2 seconds of invulnerability when you're using back-to-back Flame Shield. You could add to that in certain builds that allows it, the Flame Shield as an enchantment. So the way it's gonna play is that you're going to have this damage window where you're invulnerable, you're going to jump in the middle of the fray and shoot everything, try to destroy everything before your invulnerability ends. Because after that, anything basically shooting at you will one-shot you. So it's, I think, going to be your main sorcerer theme for season 1. You know, one-shot everything, else everything is going to one-shot you. So I think that's how I'm going to design most of the builds for season 1 moving forward that I'm going to put on the channel, unless I find a smarter way to do things. But for endgame, and at some point even for speed farming, like, I mean, if you speed farm the content you used to speed farm before and still everything one-shots you, then it's going to be the way. So armor is getting nerfed, and for the sorcerer, big time, well, even more in the rest of the patch notes. What do we have here? Yeah, okay, that nerf, yeah, this was strong. The damage, increased damage to stun enemies was strong, especially for us sorcerers, because most of our damage in certain builds, in many builds, rely on the targets being crowd controlled and having several types of crowd control applied to them. Okay, so I used to cheat that where on a two-handed staff I would put the aspect of control, and on the amulet I would put the aspect of retribution here. That led to a 60% increased damage to stunned enemies, and the aspect of control on the two-handed staff was massive too. So that strategy is no more. Rest in peace, amulet of retribution. And now we're back to general values of 20%, which is fine. Everything else in the sorcerer kit, when it comes to damage multipliers that you can apply on offensive legendaries, are like in the 15 to 25 range, which is perfect. I mean, having everything there is fine. This one was overtuned, probably because it was a lot higher than the rest of the pack at 20%. So makes sense that they make this change. I'm not going to cry over it. That's fine. That one we are not using as a sorcerer because, like I said previously, we rely on the targets being crowd controlled to apply, I don't know, 6 times the damage, 8 times the damage, 12 times the damage. So this 50% when they are unstoppable was meaningless. We were still doing near to no damage when they are unstoppable, and when we can control targets, we deal massive, like several times more damage to them. So this change from 50 to 40 is meaningless for us. This one, keep an eye on that. As I said previously, I see a lot of interesting builds in Season 1 involving life regeneration and being more heavily focused on resource generation. So keep an eye on that. The buff is big. 20 to 40 mana is big, but regenerating 25% of your maximum life is also no joke. You could try to cheat, you know, having barriers and not having a max life health pool, you know, but in the end, let's keep an eye on that and let's see how we can make the most out of this in Season 1. Oh yes, this is huge. This change is the huge change of the patch, because I think 99% of the builds are running the Butcher's Cleaver. So I'm so glad they changed the slow from 40 to 61%. This one's great. So I think most of us are going to benefit from that. Thank you. This is a reminder of, you know, if you didn't know already, how do you farm gear? Nightmare dungeons, number one. How do you farm legendaries and have like high rolls on your legendaries? Hell tides. If you didn't know that, this is a reminder that that's how it works. You know, they're just modifying it further so that if you're farming non-nightmare dungeons, the chances of you getting ancestral rare items is gonna be less. And if you're farming nightmare dungeons to get your ancestral rare items, you're gonna see more of them. So reminder that this is why you need to rush World Tier 4 Torment difficulty as fast as you can, and then spend your level 70 to 100, you know, taking things slower, enjoying the game, trying different builds, and farming your rare items there. That's why you want to rush at least level 70, World Tier 4, and use that time there to farm your ancestral rare items, excuse me, and your legendaries during Hell Tides, World Tier 4. So they are trying to... So now in Diablo 4 Vanilla, pre-season and Season 1, it's a lot more efficient to play in a group for leveling. And this is not gonna change anything. This is not gonna cut it. Like monsters are going to be a little bit tougher, but still, if you play in a group of 4 and you level a new character, like I'm gonna do for Season 1 starts, in around 20 hours of group play, you're going to reach level 100. If you would do that solo self-found, I'm not too sure if it's going to take 3 or 4 times that amount. It depends on many factors, of course. But long story short, group play is more optimized for leveling. That's why I'm going to do that for Season 1. For non-season, for pre-season, I did everything solo self-found because I wanted to test the game, get to know everything, learn everything. So I did solo self-found, but you know, to be efficient, 20 hours for level 100 characters, there's no way I'm going to play differently in Season 1. Yeah, this one's on the funny side. The Greed Shrine, you know, it's like you're level 100, World Tier 4 during a Nightmare Dungeon where mobs are 100 and, you know, 30, whatever level. So it's pretty tough. Then you find a Greed Shrine, you hit them, and they give you 3 gold. Woo! So hopefully the scaling gives you tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, because we need the millions here for re-rolling our items. Speaking of re-rolling, okay, so this one's gonna hurt. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you didn't notice, items, rare, legendaries, they drop with not default, but like affixes that have a higher chance to be present on the item than others. And unfortunately, for some items, it's, you know, affixes that we don't want, that are really a waste. And like re-rolling items at the occultist is so costly because of that. So it is the case on chest armor. Same thing here. I think control impaired duration reduction is one of the, I can't call it default affix, but I have an affix that you're very likely to see on your chest armor, okay? And this one sucks. We don't want it. We want maximum life. We want damage reduction from close, distant, burning. We want armor. You know, we don't want that. Control impaired duration reduction. So that's the case on chest armor, and it sucks because if you want to roll a trifactor chest armor into your quad factor, it's gonna cost you a lot, like 50 to 100 million gold just to get one time that affix you're looking for, so you don't have really control on the value you're going to land with, because there's only this one time in 100 million gold where you're going to see it. So that sucks. Nice change. So now you're getting that on pants also. Oh my goodness. So they are introducing this on pants, it will behave exactly the same, and it sucks, honestly. Like, this is not going the right direction. But they know it, come on. Deep inside of your heart, Blizzard devs, you know that. You know we don't want that stat. You know we want damage reduction and maximum life. Why are you doing that? Anyway, so yeah, that sucks, and it's going to be costly on pants to get a trifactor. On chest armor, it wasn't really an issue because most of the builds are running the raiment of the infinite chest armor, so we didn't have to reroll anything on the chest. But on pants, we had to add a quad factor pants, and now it's going to cost us more to, and sometimes you can't even get the affix you want. So they are like amulets, rings, and I think boots. The default affixes are better because on amulets you get cooldown reduction and mana cost reduction, I think, as default, or like high chance rolls that you can get, which makes rolling amulets a lot better. Rings, you have critical strike chance as a default, not default, but a high chance affix that you would get. You probably noticed that when you are going to the occultist, enchanting an item, re-rolling it, you only get 2 choices anyway, right? So, which is very low, by the way. Why not 6? Anyway, it's 2, and one of those 2 has to be a what I call default affix. So let's say you have a ring, crit damage, vulnerable damage, maximum life. Those 3 factors. That's great because when you go to the occultist, roll the 4th one, it will always roll as critical strike chance. So in just 1 attempt, you get it. In 10 attempts, you get a high roll on it. This is great. And now, on pants, you're going to see that one, if you don't have it on the item every time, and you only have 1 other possibility for affix, which is just killing item affixes, honestly. I hope this one lives. We'll see what they have to say during the campfire talk with developers on Friday about that. I'm very unhappy about this one. Barrier generation. Anyone playing Barb or any other class? Are you guys happy to have a barrier generation on your gear? Really? Okay, like, I mean, we Sorcs can use that. Can you? Like, are you happy to have that? I think it sucks. Same here. I'm not sure how well you receive this change. For us, it sucks because since they are giving it to all classes, they have to, I don't know why, nerf it by 12% on Helm. Thank you. Yeah, we don't get it on amulets. Sometimes I do get it on focus, on offhand. And why do you have to nerf it when you give it to other classes? It makes no sense to me. Anyway. Then they are trying to lower the ceiling on endgame damage. Okay, I understand that. Those are just numbers, so we can live with that. You know, that's not. At the end of the day, those are numbers. Doesn't change the playstyle. Doesn't change how often you can use your skills and stuff. This does. This hurts. Like for instance, the maximum cooldown reduction we used to have on offhand was 18.6%, I believe. And now it's 10 point something just because of this change. That's not great. Like, I understand that. I understand lowering the ceiling on damage. I don't understand that. I mean, I understand that casting skills more often results in more damage, but I don't like this approach when nerfing the damage. Nerf the numbers, that's fine. Don't nerf the playstyle, please. So the whole blocks of text here are all about lowering the endgame damage. Oh, yeah, that one's funny. So to better, like for endgame, I think it's going to be better if you're squishy. So we're going to give you some damage, you're going to play glass cannon and live with that. Good luck. Here's a block of text and it's like an insurance contract. Read the small lines, you know. You never know when you'll have to use the contract. So there's a big block saying, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to buff the additive part of your multiplicative damage here. And there's this one line, where did they hide it? Here. Hello. Total armor reduced by 30%. Really? Like your helm, your chest armor, Your pants, the biggest source of armor, are being reduced by 30%. Welcome to season of one shot. I hope you enjoy your time there. So that's about it for the video. As there will be more videos like this one. I'm sorry, this one might be very long, but you can hear that I played the whole night testing things and I'm not happy where this landed. I understand some changes, but I'm not happy in the philosophy behind the design. I don't like when things are going this way. The game's fresh, the game's new. First patches are important. You could have fixed many things and you could have enhanced our gameplay so much. You didn't nail it. I'll be playing Season 1 tomorrow night in a group of 4, blasting. Hopefully Saturday I should have a level 100 sorcerer. I'm going to try out every possible build I can come up with. And for Season 1, I took some time off from the other works that helped me pay my bills, and till end of August I can be playing nearly full-time Diablo 4, making videos and sharing them with you guys. So Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day, I will play and work on videos. So I hope I can provide so much more content that's going to help you during your leveling, to help you fight morosity, burnout in this game, to help diversify what we can do, to show you pretty builds, fun to play and nice to play, feeling good, doing damage and stuff. So expect a lot of videos to come. As always, if you want to help me, say something nice in the comment section to snowball the YouTube algorithm. And like, comment, subscribe as always. Thank you guys for staying till the end, and I will see you in the next videos in English, because I took note that I was doing way too many French videos and leaving you guys that helped me up building this channel since the beginning with the English content. And I'm going to do from now on every video in French and English, and I'm going to improve the time to release of videos, so you're going to see more videos more often. I hope you enjoy your time there. Have a great one. Don't cry, there are many more patches coming. We'll make it work. We will make it work. I'll see you in Sanctuaries. Have a nice day.